Welcome to Mr. Giant Reacts and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Giant. I'm back with another video for you, back with another reaction and thing. And this one here was sent to me so that, they wanted me to watch it. But, I'm going to go ahead and react to it. This is the first time I'm reacting to this here. This one is from Ireland, a little Irish history here. And it's a story of the 1981 hunger strike and prison protest. Now, I heard a little bit about this when it was going on, but this was 1981, and we on the island in Grenada was in the middle of our revolution. And I do believe on June the 19th, I believe, and we had our own little bomb blast that it was a bomb blast that killed 2 students during a speech of our prime minister at the time. So I never really paid attention to this as much back then because we were in the middle of our own little thing, and it's sad that it's that way. But let's go ahead and YouTube and simmer so I could learn some more about this situation here. Okay, let's YouTube and simmer.
Thousands of Irish Republicans were imprisoned during the conflict, north and south, in English jails and further afield. All were political prisoners. All showed courage, dignity and a determination to maintain the integrity of the Republican struggle. And prisoners were central to that struggle. The events of the 1981 hunger strike brought the prisoners centre stage in the struggle when the eyes of the world were on Long Kesh. The hunger strikers, as well as the other prisoners in Long Kesh and Armagh and in prisons across Ireland and Britain, fought for their right to be treated as political prisoners. They refused all attempts by the British government to criminalise the prisoners and republicanism. These attempts began in 1976 when the British government withdrew political status for prisoners convicted of political offences and sought to treat them as criminals. This policy of criminalisation was immediately resisted by Republican prisoners. When Kieran Nugent was sentenced and imprisoned in September 1976, he rejected being labelled a criminal and he refused to wear the prison uniform, the very symbol of criminalisation, telling the screws that they'd have to nail it to his back. He refused to wear the clothes of a convict, instead choosing only to wear a blanket. With this brave act of defiance, he became the first blanket man and began the period of prison protest, which ultimately led to the hunger strikes. Soon other sentenced prisoners joined him on the blanket protest, and by the end of the year, more than 40 prisoners were on the blanket. They were joined on the protest for political recognition by the women in Armagh jail, who refused to carry out prison work. As a result, they were subjected to long hours in lockup, lost remission of their sentences, and they were subjected to a punitive regime. As Britain doubled down on its criminalisation policy, the resolve of the prisoners increased. Those on the blanket faced harsh conditions in that cold winter and faced a 24-hour lockup in their cells and were punished by having their furniture removed and being placed on a punishment diet regularly. They were also unable to receive visits from their families. As tensions rose, so too did the brutality of the screws, to the point where prisoners faced severe beatings whenever they left their cells. In March 1978, they began to refuse to leave their cells and, as a result, were unable to slop out. With prisoners unable to get rid of waste, they were forced to smear it on the walls of their cells, and so the no-wash protest began. Soon there were 300 prisoners on the blanket and no-wash protests, and the outside world began to take notice. In July 1978, the Archbishop of Armagh, Thomas O'Faith, visited Long Kesh and spoke of the inhumane conditions which he found there, comparing the conditions the prisoners were forced to live in with the slums of Calcutta. This brought even more attention to the prison protest, and in January 1980, the prisoners released a statement setting out their 5 demands in their campaign for political status. Soon the men in Long Kesh were joined on the no-wash protest by the female political prisoners in Armagh jail. As the protests escalated, the prisoners made the decision to put more pressure on the British government by embarking on a hunger strike in October 1980. 7 men stepped forward. Brendan Hughes, Tommy McKerney, Raymond McCartney, Tom McFeely, Sean McKenna, Leo Green and John Nixon. And they went on hunger strike for prisoners' 5 demands and political status.
My 6 comrades are prepared to clue us, and we are prepared to die to prove that we are special prisoners and our 5 basic demands are just.
As the brave prisoners went on hunger strike, campaign groups sprang up across Ireland and internationally. People took to the streets in support of the prisoners and their demands. Across the world, the media spotlight was shone on Long Kesh and the prisoners' hunger strike and the brutality of Thatcher's policies in Ireland. The hunger strike continued for 53 days and ended when Sean McKenna was near death after proposals from the British government. These proposals turned out to be hollow, only serving to increase the resolve of the prisoners to continue their campaign for political status. As 1981 began, the prisoners in Long Kesh and Armagh were so relieved that no one had died on the first hunger strike, but also frustrated by the British government reneging on its proposals. But their determination to resist the criminalisation of their struggle was higher than ever. And the prisoners' leader, Bobby Sands, knew what had to be done. He knew a second hunger strike would be necessary, and that it would be a hunger strike to the death. On March the 1st, 1981, in his cell in Long Kesh, Bobby Sands began his hunger strike. Aware of what lay before him, of the possibility of his own death and the callous hostility of Thatcher's government, Bobby Sands was determined to stand by his comrades. Despite 5 years of hardship on the blanket protest, the no-wash protest and the daily brutality they faced from the screws, the prisoners were energised and got behind the protest. The female prisoners in Armagh also supported the hunger strike, continuing their no-work protest and highlighting the prisoners' 5 demands. And they found support far beyond Long Kesh and Armagh. Nationalists were angered at the cold indifference of the British government and got behind the prisoners. People joined protest marches and vigils. They stood by the families of the hunger strikers. Just 5 days into Bobby Sands' hunger strike, the independent MP for Fermanagh South Tyrone, Frank Maguire, died, triggering a by-election, and after much debate, it was decided that Bobby Sands should stand for election. As the campaign got underway, Bobby Sands was joined on hunger strike by Francis Hughes, Raymond McCreish and Patsy O'Hara, and support grew for the prisoners. Following the by-election on the 9th of April, Bobby Sands was elected as a Member of Parliament.
Anti-H Block, Armagh, political prisoner, 30,000.
His election brought huge public attention to the hunger strike from across the world, and pressure mounted on the British government. But it cruelly refused to move. On the 5th of May, after 66 days on a hunger strike, Bobby Sands died. His death led to an outpouring of grief across Ireland, and in Belfast, his funeral was attended by more than 100,000 people. It also increased the determination and resolve of the hunger strikers and their supporters. Just 2 days after the death of Bobby Sands, Joe McDonnell began his hunger strike, and by the end of the month, he was joined by Martin Herson, Kevin Lynch and Kieran Doherty. Protests intensified across the north and across the world as efforts were made to prevent any further deaths. Tensions also increased on the streets, and a number of people lost their lives during the hunger strike. On the 8th of June, Thomas McElwee joined the hunger strike 3 days before a general election was held in the south. Several hunger strikers and protesting prisoners stood in the election, and Kieran Doherty was elected as TD for Cavan Monaghan and Paddy Agnew for Louth. And the by-election which followed the death of Bobby Sands showed that public support was not merely an emotional reaction when his election agent Owen Corran was elected with an increased majority. Michael Devine joined the hunger strike on the 20th of June as protests and demonstrations in support of the prisoners intensified. As the hunger strike continued, the scale of the tragedy in the H-blocks of Long Kesh was shown to the world with the death of each hunger striker. After the death of Bobby Sands in May, Francis Hughes died, followed by Raymond McCreish and Patsy O'Hara the same month. Joe McDonnell and Martin Herson died in July. Kevin Lynch, Kieran Docherty, Thomas McElwee and Michael Devine died in August. All died as political prisoners. They gave their lives selflessly for their comrades, for what they believed in, and for the Republican struggle. They did so with courage, dignity, and determination. Their sacrifice is remembered and respected throughout Ireland and across the world today, 40 years on.
When apples still grow in November, when blossoms still bloom on each tree, when leaves are still green in December, let's send that our land will be free. I wonder her hills and her valleys, and still through my sorrow I see a land that has never known freedom, and still only our rivers run free. I drink to the death of her manhood, those men who would rather have died than to live in the cold chains of bondage, to bring back their rights were denied. Oh, where are you now that we need you? And what burns where the flame used to be? Are you gone like the snows of last winter, and still only our rivers run free? How sweet is life, but we're crying. How mellow the wine, but we're dry. How fragrant the rose, but it's dying. And how gentle the wind, but it sighs. What good is in youth when it's aging? And what joy is in eyes that can't see, when there's sorrow in sunshine and laughter, and still only our rivers run free, and still only her rivers run free.
I don't have words, man. I don't have words at all. No, I've heard of it. And even with everything that's going on in the island, we knew of it. But not in the detail that I've seen on here. I always wonder what the dislike of Margaret Thatcher was. I always did. I cannot understand it now. Anyway, man, you all have a great day, all right? Hopefully. Not too much stress is going on with you all. And that somehow we learn to start taking care of each other regardless to who we are or where we are. Because the fact is, when push comes to shove, we're all we got, man. We just have us. Humans, that is. Especially everyday, hard-working humans. Regardless to nationality, color, religion, whatever you want to call it. We all we have. Y'all take care of each other, all right? Cool runnings.